Yes, I'm good.
Okay. Welcome back. This is still One Voice Radio, and we have Ambassador Temba in the house having fantastic political discussions here in the studio. And I'm going to shed light on some of the things we were discussing by asking first this question. Ambassador Temba, we were discussing about terrorism and the role of the individual fighting these terrorist groups. So can you shed a little bit of light, just expatiate or just drop a little hint of what we were discussing during the break?
Well, there's a number of terrorist groups on the continent. You even have ISIS in Libya. They even now have a policeman who are patrolling the streets in Libya from ISIS.
Wow.
And you have Al-Shabaab, you have Boko Haram, you have Seleka, and a number of others in Mali and other parts of the continent. Those terrorist groups deliver a message of people who are actually fighting for the rights of Muslims on the continent. But in fact, they are using the Islamic religion as a scapegoat. They are just using it to confuse people.
As a cover.
As a cover, yes, to give people the impression that they are religious people when they are actually not. They are just terrorists.
That's exactly what they are.
And therefore criminals. Now, in order to defeat these people, you need to have a situation where every one of us, every citizen of the African continent, is given more information about these people, how they operate, and what, and also about where they are found, in which countries, etc., and also how to deal with them, and what role as individual African citizens we can play in support of our military to defeat these terrorist groups. And we need also our governments to understand that these terrorist groups are actually receiving support from some prominent business people in certain countries.
Like in Nigeria, they call them the Cabal. The Cabal.
Yes. They receive a great deal of assistance from even certain governments around the world. And some of that assistance, some of that support which these terrorist groups receive is financial, material, moral support. And it comes in different ways.
True.
But one of the ways that it comes through is through business people. So we need ourselves to be mobilized into a force that will be providing support to the military. And everyone can play a role. A song can be very effective.
True.
A role in a play can be very effective. You can write a poem against terrorism. You can write a poem in support of the soldiers. That is helpful. You don't necessarily have to carry a gun. You don't necessarily have to carry a weapon or a bomb or anything. You can, in your own...
The small things.
The small thing, you can make your own humble contribution. But unfortunately, in some countries, people seem not to be aware that you need, as a nation, to be united. You need to forget about tribalism, about regionalism, etc., and focus on the fight. Because if you don't, these terrorist groups are going to break our countries apart. We are going to find our countries disintegrating into tribal territories or even religious territories. Like you could easily find a situation such as in the Central African Republic. You could easily find them breaking into
Christian
North
and South, Muslim North,
you know, something like that, or
yeah.
even completely breaking apart into two separate entities. You know,
and you know, it's a good thing we're coming out to talk about this, because a lot of people don't understand that it's the small things that count. It is your job as a citizen to protect your country, not just the soldiers. Do your little part, whatever moral support that you can give, do it. Okay, now, quickly, and I know we're running out of time, but I'm going to pinch a bit of time just to talk to you. And now I want us to now look at the impact of democracy in Nigeria. Recently we saw in Tanzania, I think the new president was going on the streets to clean the streets, cancelled Independence Day celebrations, said there's a cholera outbreak, that means our country is not clean. And he went on the streets to clean the streets. Another thing that happened, Burkina Faso, looking for the killer of the former president, I think it was a Compaoré. I think Compaoré is being sought after, or his killer is being sought after. And also, I mean, what Buhari has been doing in Nigeria, trying to reform the country, not to talk about Uhuru Kenyatta, and also, you know, other leaders in Africa, all trying their best to make the country right. But still the problem persists that there's problems in Africa. So now, my first question on that note is, what are these presidents getting right that other African presidents are getting wrong? And my second question, okay, let me let you answer that one, because I know that was already broad, and then after I'll give you the second part.
Yeah, it's a difficult question for me. Even to say that they are getting it right, it seems to me that every president on the continent is doing something
right,
something right,
okay,
and something wrong. You know, there is no perfect president. Remember that the countries which are known today as the developed world, developed democracies, they themselves were once at the same level where we are. And there is a certain, unfortunately, an expectation from them that we should suddenly be perfect, be perfect democracies, when even they themselves are not perfect. You can look at the elections in what you call in the US some years ago, in Florida. There was election rigging there.
Yeah, there was rigging.
You see, and then once it's done in Africa, then it's something.
It's a huge thing.
You know, of course, that doesn't mean we shouldn't do our best to be the best. We should do everything possible that we do things right. And I think our presidents are doing the best they can. The Nigerian president, for instance, is fighting against corruption. That is a good thing. He is also fighting against Boko Haram. That is a good thing. But I think he would be more effective. His fight against Boko Haram would be more effective if he mobilized the Nigerian people. And to do that, you want to make sure that every Nigerian citizen feels, he must be made to feel that he belongs, that the state cares about them, and that he must do whatever he can, the little he can, from his own corner of the country, that can help the national army to fight more effectively. And part of that, for instance, is something I must mention. I've noticed that some Nigerians are doing some work. There are some interfaith organizations, you know, that are working very hard to help the Muslims to understand, and the Christians to understand each other.
Yeah.
You know, those people are doing a very, very, very valuable job against organizations such as Boko Haram. And your intelligence organization anywhere on the continent cannot be more effective if the people are not on board. Because the people have, even if the people see everything, there's nothing the people don't see.
True.
You know, The leaders don't see everything, but the people see everything. The people are everywhere. So you want to bring them on board, and they will tell you where and what is happening.
True.
But if you don't,
then they'll be silent.
they will be silent, but not only silent, they will be won over by
the
the likes
yeah.
of Boko Haram.
True.
So there has to be an effort to win the hearts and minds of Nigerians. You see?
Yeah, I get you 210% on that one. Wow. And okay, let me just ask you this question. Final question before we leave for the day, because I'm already eating into the time for music. Now, I want to ask you, looking at 2016, the African continent has seen some growth, some improvement when it comes to leadership, but also some very heavy breakdowns. What next for Africa in 2016? It is a very difficult question. I know it because I've asked myself and I haven't come up with one answer. So
I think what needs to happen is that we need to revive what the work that was being done by Obasanjo, Bouteflika,
yes.
and Wade, the president of Senegal, and some other presidents of the continent. These that I've mentioned were actually leading, but they were supported by other African leaders. So
true.
I think that work must be revived. We should revive the African Renaissance slogan.
Yes.
And we should this time we should do it better. We should involve every citizen of this continent. We should help them understand what the leaders are trying to achieve, and get these people on board. Once you have the ordinary people on board, each one playing their role, you will be able to do a better job. And another very, very important thing is that you need to be aware that there are forces out there that are busy trying to cause division and strife